Today we're going to show you guys how to light a basic interview using a 3-point lighting system. We're using clip lamps today that you can buy at a local hardware store for like $5 or $10. The reason we're doing the clip lamps instead of professional lights is one, they're more affordable, and two, we're going to really teach you lighting principles through this process. What you'll need for this, however, is at least a gray card. You can buy 2 of these. I think Mike's camera has them for $18. I recommend highly that you get an analog or digital light meter. I prefer the analog ones. They're $200. You can buy them used at sites like KEH. B&H also has some affordable deals. You can't really tell what proper exposure is unless you have a light meter. The camera has its own internal meter. It's set to actually 12 to 14% gray, despite what some sources say it's not an 18% gray. So consider that when you're calibrating. We're using a Nikon D3200, which is on sale right now for about $500. It's very affordable, and we're going to be using a very long lens, a 70 to 300, which is also about $500, to make sure we can get really, really close to the subject, flatten out the features, and we can hide some of the lights and get the clip lamps really, really close. So check it out. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set the key light on and see what we're working with. You can light from the foreground to the background or background to foreground, whatever your preference is. Because of the clip lamps, I want to find out what our brightest image is and expose for the subject first. We're going to put the gray card in and we're going to measure the light value. So the light meter says that we are actually at the appropriate exposure. The gray card, however, will give a slightly different reading because the internal metering system of the camera actually reads for 12 to 14% gray. So it's going to come out a little bit different. It will, however, get you a lot closer than just guessing, and please do not trust the LCD screen as they're misleading. If we want to change the quality of the key light, we can add diffusion material or wax paper. Just make sure not to get it too close to the unit, otherwise it'll ignite. So here's with diffusion material, here's without. Again, with, you'll notice nice soft features and shadow detail. Here's a little bit harder. It really depends on the face. If they have hard angular lines, sometimes it's nice to enhance them using hard lighting. If they want to remove wrinkles or blemishes, it's good to use soft lighting. You can also bounce light to make it really, really soft. Right now we're just shining the key light into white cardstock. You want to position the key light in the direction that they'll be looking. So if they're doing an interview that's 10 to 15 degrees off axis, like our model is here, we're going to want the key light in the direction of her eye line to give a nice eye light. We don't want to hold the key light too high because we'll miss the eye light and her eyes will become shadowed. Next, we're going to add a rim light to give some separation from the dark background. One thing we want to avoid when adding the rim light is catching the nose with the light. Creates kind of an odd highlight on the nose and draws too much attention to itself. So we want to keep it back and as close to behind, directly behind the subject as possible without getting in the camera. Now we'll add the backlight. We can do a couple things with the backlight. We can move it in right behind the subject to create a halo effect, or we can put stuff in front of the light and create kind of like a makeshift gobo. So here we just added a plant, creates an interesting pattern. You can do this with a lot of different objects. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of different plants even. Venetian blinds, it's really up to your choice. So if you want to add a little splash of color, you can go with an orange filter or a blue filter. And if you want to take the contrast ratio down, you can use a piece of white cardstock and actually just kind of position it on the opposite side of the key light. I tend to like a little contrast and shaping of the face, so I typically don't use this. It really depends on the kind of interview that you want to light and your own personal preference. And that's your basic 3-point lighting setup.